What's good, all? Welcome back to my channel, Chrissyy Talks. I'm Chrissyy, and let's go ahead and jump right into it. So a supporter actually DM'd me asking me to cover the story of Ta'neasha Chappell. So basically, if you guys do not know who Ta'neasha is, she is a 23-year-old black woman who died under police custody, and her family is trying to figure out what happened and is trying to get answers. So somebody asked me to cover this story just to help put her name out there, help her get some coverage. Now, I don't have the biggest platform, bitch, I don't even have a big platform, but if I could at least inform one person, you know, if one person could share her story, share her video, get informed of what's going on with Ta'neasha, then that's enough for me to do, you feel me? So let's go ahead and talk about the story of Ta'neasha. Now, Ta'neasha's a 23-year-old mother from Louisville, Kentucky, who has a 10-year-old daughter named Nevaeh. Her family describes her to be funny, loud, loving, having a big bubbly personality. They say she was very well known in Louisville and was the life of the party. Now, on May 26, around 12:45 p.m., Indiana State Police received a call surrounding theft of several items that valued over $3,000 at the Polo Ralph Lauren store at the Premium Outlet Mall near Edinburgh, Indiana. Ta'neasha was seen running out the store with a pile of clothing, and it was reported that she took the license plate off of her car. Her car was locked, she busted through the window, and she fled the scene. Now, about 15 minutes later, state police located Ta'neasha going south in a white Chevrolet Impala on I-65 in Jackson County. State Trooper Corey Clark conducted a traffic stop and attempted to arrest Ta'neasha, but when she realized that he was going to arrest her, she jumped back into her car and fled the scene. And when she fled the scene, she actually injured the state trooper's arm, causing him to suffer an abrasion, which was one of the charges she would suffer later on. Ta'neasha continued going southbound on I-65 through 3 counties in the span of 30 minutes in a high-speed chase. She went through the Jackson, Scott, and Clark County before getting into an accident by hitting a roadside and then attempting to continue to flee on foot. While she was on foot is when police finally caught up to her and they tased her and took her into custody. Ta'neasha was held at the Jackson County Jail in Brownstown, Indiana on several felony and misdemeanor charges in relation to her shoplifting, her resisting law enforcement, her leaving the scene of an accident, and recklessly driving causing bodily injuries. So that injury that the state trooper suffered earlier was a part of her charges, and that charge was actually the most serious charge. It's a level 4 felony that could get you anywhere between 2 and 12 years. Now, oddly enough, police also suspected that Ta'neasha was a part of a theft ring. So in the span of 2 days, several women was actually arrested for shoplifting, and while Ta'neasha was allegedly shoplifting, 5 other women were also arrested for shoplifting around the exact same time. So while Indiana State Police was getting a call for Ta'neasha, there were other police dealing with shoplifting incidents as well. So as a result, police suspected that all women were in a theft ring and all of the incidents must have been connected, but there is no evidence and there's no confirmation that that is true. Now, again, this occurred on May 26th, and that is when Ta'neasha was taken into custody for felony and misdemeanor charges, including her shoplifting. However, on Friday, July 16th was the last day that Ta'neasha was seen alive. On July 16th, Ta'neasha was taken to the Schneck Memorial Hospital, where she died later that day. So what happened to Ta'neasha Chappell? Now, Indiana State Police are still conducting an ongoing investigation, so cause of death has not yet been released. However, they did do an autopsy report on Sunday, July 18th. They're still waiting for final reports in the toxicology report. Now, while the final reports in the toxicology report are still pending, apparently her mother has yet to even identify her body. Not only that, but when her family received the call on the night of Friday, July 16th that Ta'neasha had passed away, they received the call around 8:30 p.m. and Ta'neasha passed away around 6 p.m. that night. Not only that, but the detective who called her family that night shared little to no information on what happened to her. They simply told her family that she was sick and she was suffering a fever and vomiting the day before, and her fever was so high that the staff was checking in on her every 15 minutes, but they didn't call for ambulance services until the next day when she was unresponsive. So it's like, why didn't you call the ambulance the day before while she was going through, you know, her fever, her illness, her sickness? It's not making any sense. Why did you wait until it got very serious to the point where you couldn't help her to then call the hospital? Now, according to her mother, Lavita McCain, her daughter was in good health the last time that they spoke, and the last time that they spoke was apparently the day before she passed away. Lavita also stated that she received several phone calls in the past 2 months saying that she had problems with other inmates and even saying that they were going to kill her. She allegedly told her mom that if anything were to happen to her, they did it.
But she called numerous of times over and over. They gonna kill me, get me out of here.
Now her father, Ta'neasha Chappell, believes that there was definitely some form of foul play involved, especially being that she was the only black girl at the jail. At that time, apparently there was even an incident where a noose was left on her bed, so it's like there was just a lot of shit going on between her and the inmates, possibly even the staff, and her race might play a part in all of this. So it's like when we look at everything, the police didn't even call the inmates until a day after Ta'neasha was suffering a high fever and constant vomiting. They waited a day later until she was unresponsive and was in desperate need of some medical attention. However, her mom did say that she was in good health just the day before her death, the last time that she talked to her. And then we have to remember all of these phone calls where Ta'neasha flat out says, they're going to kill me, I'm getting harassed by these inmates, if something happens to me, they did it. And it's just like, I cannot imagine their family going through this, because not only did the police call them almost 2 hours after her daughter passed away, but they gave them little to no information on what happened besides this alleged fever and vomiting, just her being sick. And even though they performed an autopsy, they still haven't given out any information surrounding the cause of her death. They're still waiting on the final reports and the toxicology report. All this going on, and her mother has yet to even identify her body, and I think that's just ridiculous. Like, at least give the mom her right to identify her daughter's body. Now, since the incident has happened, the family of course wants some answers, and they recently hired the legal team that represented Breonna Taylor's case, Louisville attorneys Sam Aguirre, Lanita Baker, and Florida lawyer Ben Crump. Now, they were able to secure a $12 million settlement for Breonna Taylor, rest in peace to her, and now they are working on this case with Ta'Neasha's family to figure out what really happened. Now, attorney Baker noted that Ta'Neasha alleged that the inmates were kept in bad condition. They were kept in cells with sewage backup, they were denied medication, and the women were only given 3 sanitary napkins for their whole menstrual cycle, and you already know that's ridiculous. Women's cycle could last anywhere from 2 to 3 to 7 days, and on top of that, their blood flow could be heavy or it could be light, but regardless, 3 sanitary napkins might not even last 1 day for women who are on their periods, so that's a wrap. Now, attorney Baker also stated that the sheriff's department reached out to the family, and they're speculating that this was a chemical issue. Fortunately, the legal team has requested a separate and independent autopsy. I feel like it's sounding like the police are going to try to blame it on some type of chemical issue, but it's like, what chemical issue could she have gotten in prison? Now, I know inmates do try to sneak things past prison and stuff like that, but it's like, we have to look at everything that's going on here. Ta'Neasha has been threatened over the course of 2 months being there. She was the only black person there, and the detective wasn't trying to give out any other information regarding her death to her family. Even though they did do an autopsy report, they're not even letting her mother see her body, and they're waiting for the toxicology report. So it seems like they're waiting for this toxicology report and might try to go down this chemical issue story. But I'm really glad her family got Breonna Taylor's legal team, because it seems like they're gonna be on it. Now, Sam Aguirre also posted a couple statements about the case, and he also said some things about the conditions of the jail that Ta'Neasha was held in. He said, so let's talk about the Jackson County Jail. Ta'Neasha never had a chance. Inmates forced to live in a sewage multiple times, black mold too, never given recreation time, deprived of showers because guards say they're short-staffed, constantly attacked with guards doing nearly nothing, don't have any medical personnel available most of the time, forced to sleep on plastic mat with 1 itchy pencil thick and torn blanket that never gets replaced, deprived of basic medical needs, guards telling them they're faking or making them wait over a week to even see a nurse. See a nurse who doesn't give them their medications that are critical for health, and when inmates say something, nurse locks them down. Have many of their grievances crumbled and thrown in trash by guards, given 2 rolls of toilet paper a week. When it runs out, inmates have to use book pages, even Bible pages to wipe. Given 1 pair of underwear, forced to clean up the sewage themselves, deprived of food and water if they try to speak out about the inhumane conditions, have commissary taken by guards because they want it for themselves, are constantly called the N-word if one of the few black female inmates, have to deal with guards who are constantly showing favoritism to certain female inmates who will flirt back with them, forced to use their own commissary bowls to trap leaking and flooding water, only get new blankets after a lice breakout, have food withheld when they speak out. This jail has 240 inmates coming and going, but claims to have had 0 inmates with COVID, ever. Only staff. Well, that's what happens when you ignore people who can't breathe, have uncontrollable fevers, and are neglected. Oh, and Jackson County, as of late last year, had the highest COVID positivity rate in all of Indiana. 0 inmates with COVID, though, at all since the pandemic started. That's deliberate indifference. Ta'Neasha didn't have a chance. released a video, explained why she was left in her cell for 24 hours while vomiting and fighting a spiking fever, explained the facial injuries, what happened to Ta'neasha Chappell. So apparently Ta'neasha was also found with some bruises on her face, which I would assume came from the inmates, but again, the guards weren't doing nothing. And it seems like from Sam's post that again, the inmates were just in terrible conditions, and even if they showed any type of medical issue, the nurses that were barely even there or barely available wouldn't even help or give the medication. So it seemed like, as he said, she just never had a chance, and she may as well have been sick or even contracted COVID. He also says, warning, disgusting and offensive. This Jackson County jail is hell, and this area is filled with unconscionable racism. Goes back decades. Old Jackson County banner ad from the Old Town Carnival speaks for itself. Make this big week your vacation time. Bring the family, meet old friends, hit the nigger babies, eat hot dogs, join the fun. Link below, it's legit. According to the Jim Crow Museum at Ferris State University, it sounds like a common carnival target game, but there was one unsettling part of the game. Namely, the game's target was a real live human being, a Negro human being. Ta'neasha never had a chance. So I guess there's an ad from the Old Town Carnival in Old Jackson County. One of the last things he said was, imagine being locked in a small cell and throwing up repeatedly. Someone comes to your cell and you think it's to get you emergency care, but it's actually just to move your cellmate somewhere else because of the smell. Imagine being so weak that you defecated on yourself because you couldn't get the strength to make it to the toilet. Imagine hitting a buzzer all night to get the people who are responsible for your care to respond, only for those people to tell you that you just had to deal with it. Imagine the cell opening and you stumbling out into the main area, naked and covered in your own waste and collapsing to the floor. Imagine laying there for hours while none of these responsible for your care did a thing to help. Imagine then, when someone finally comes, it's not a doctor, but instead it's a guard dragging you back into your cell. Imagine getting worse, feeling the walls of death closing in and being dragged to another cell, an overcrowded one at that. Imagine trying to get the strength to stand in that cell, collapsing to the ground, and being accused of faking your condition by guards while the inmates by your side are trying to keep you alive. Imagine some of those inmates around you banging on the door and crying on the intercom to get you help and hospital transport, only to be ignored for hours. Imagine that the guards, finally annoyed with this, takes you to yet another cell. Imagine you're so hot with sickness that you again have to be unclothed. Then you're so cold that you cannot stop shaking. Imagine that finally, after more than a dozen hours of fighting off death, your body can't fight anymore. This is a messed up system in a messed up world. So it sounds like he was explaining the final hours of Ta'Neasha's life. And again, I'm just glad that they're able to get Breonna Taylor's legal team to help them with this case, because it looks like they are on it and they are getting more information out of what really happened than the police are willing to share. Now, since then, the family held protests, and they also have a GoFundMe page for Ta'Neasha. I will be linking that in my description if you guys want to donate yourself. The GoFundMe says, it is with extreme sadness that we announce the passing of Ta'Neasha Chappell. She had unexpectedly passed away at the Jackson County Jail in Brownstown, Indiana. She was a loving mother, sister, daughter, and friend who touched the lives of many around her. She leaves behind a 10-year-old daughter, Nevaeh, who will miss her terribly. We are all devastated by her loss, but are working tirelessly to figure out the events that transpired moments before her passing. In the meantime, we need any help possible to give her the proper burial she deserves. Any and all help will go to her funeral arrangements and autopsy. On behalf of our family, we truly appreciate your support and encouragement during this time. So what happened to Ta'Neasha? I mean, at this point, it just seems like it could have been the mixture of harassment from her inmates and definitely neglect on the prison's part. It may even seem like she even contracted COVID in the past 2 months. Even though her mom did say she was in good health the last time they spoke, COVID comes quick and has taken people out just as quickly. But again, I just wanted to help put this story out there. No one is saying that Ta'Neasha was innocent for what she was accused of doing, but at the end of the day, regardless of what she did, it wasn't worth her losing her life, especially the way that she did. Hopefully I can help put her name out there and help even one of you guys learn something new in terms of Ta'Neasha's story and maybe even sharing her story. But overall, my love and thoughts go out to her family, and hopefully they get the justice that they deserve. Now, if you guys want, then I will update this story if there are any updates in the future. But until then, hopefully justice is found for not only Ta'Neasha, but any other female inmate that is there and is being neglected. But that's the end of my video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down what you guys think below. Follow my Instagram at my Snapchat at Chrissyy, 2 S's, 2 Y's. I love and appreciate you guys, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye, guys.
She the girl, she the girl, she the girl.